In today's video, we are exploring Baguio, the summer capital of the Philippines. Baguio, where the air is crisp, the views are stunning, but finding parking is harder than winning the lottery. Today is the last day of the Panagbenga Flower Festival, and let me tell you, this place was packed. I mean, shoulder to shoulder packed. But hey, the fireworks at night? Totally worth it. And we watched them from our place on Evangelista Road, and for a moment, it felt like Baguio had transformed into a little piece of magic. But let's rewind a bit. And our journey started with one of the most scenic drives in the Philippines, and this is Kennan Road. Buckle up because driving up Kennan Road is a whole experience on its own. 1 minute, we're cruising next to a peaceful river, and the next, it's like I was gripping my seat, praying my husband isn't auditioning for Fast and Furious, Baguio Drift. We stopped at the Lion's Head, a 40-foot-tall sculpture, Baguio's unofficial welcome committee. Our home for the trip was on Evangelista Road, and just check out the views. Imagine waking up, stepping outside, and just seeing rolling mountains with clouds literally hugging them. That night wasn't just any ordinary night, it was the final night of Panagbenga, and from our home we could enjoy the fireworks. After that, we booked a grab taxi to bring us to Burnham Park. And we decided to go there by taxi, as we knew it was going to be impossible to find a parking space. The taxi dropped us off near the park, and as soon as we stepped out, we were greeted by huge crowds everywhere. Kids were running around, couples were strolling hand in hand, and groups of friends were just chilling on benches, soaking in the cool night air. The park was alive, buzzing with energy like it was hosting a festival. As we made our way to the lake, we passed by stalls selling fresh flowers, paintings, and those instant photo booths that make you feel like you've time-traveled back to the 90s. The temperature was perfect. A cool, crisp breeze that makes you want to walk for hours. And honestly, it felt like one of those movie moments where everything is just right. The lake is where Baguio really shines. And the water was still, reflecting the warm glow of the park lights, and it was beautiful. We strolled along the pathway circling the lake, just taking it all in. At one point, we stopped at this viewpoint by the water, took some photos, and just stood there, soaking in the moment. The air was crisp, the atmosphere was calm, and for a minute, we just forgot about everything else. And then it felt like we made a huge mistake. Because we left the peaceful lake and stepped into absolute madness, which is the night market. Picture this, a long stretch of Harrison Road completely shut down for the night. People aren't just walking anywhere they want. Oh no. This place has its own traffic rules. It's one way for pedestrians. You walk up one side, browse, fight for deals, maybe wrestle for a vintage jacket, and then when you reach the end, you walk back down the other side. No turning around, no backtracking, but just pure, organized chaos. Alright, lesson learned from last night. Getting a taxi back home was an absolute nightmare, and we waited over an hour and paid nearly 3 times the normal fare. But today was Monday. And the weekend crowd was gone, so we took a gamble and we drove. Traffic was so much better, and our first stop was the Bell Church. Now, if you told me there was a stunning Buddhist temple hidden in Baguio, I wouldn't have believed you. But here it is, and it is like a little slice of China in the Philippines, and let me tell you, if you're not expecting it, this place feels like a surprise twist in a movie. This temple was built by the Chinese-Filipino community in Baguio, sometime in the mid-20th century. The Bell Church isn't just a place of worship, but it's a symbol of the Chinese influence in the region, dating back to when early Chinese settlers arrived in the Philippines for trade and business. Many of them settled here, contributing to Baguio's growth, and over time, they built this temple as a spiritual and cultural center for their community, and as a way of preserving their heritage. The moment you walk in, you're greeted by a grand Chinese-style gate, complete with intricate dragon carvings and red and gold detailing. Everything here is designed with meaning, and red symbolizes luck and prosperity, while dragons represent strength and protection. As you explore further, you'll find beautiful pagodas, altars filled with incense, and murals depicting Buddhist teachings. It's a peaceful place, and honestly, it feels like a hidden escape from the usual busy Baguio scene. And the best part of the temple is actually the views that you get from there. But for that you will have to follow me, and there are over 100 steps that we have to climb first, before we can appreciate the views. And you can already spot these steps in the background, marked by a green color handrail. After climbing up these steps and stopping a few times to catch our breath because, let's be real, altitude plus stairs is a killer combo, we finally made it to the top terrace. Well, I am actually wrong here, because when I looked up, there were even more steps to climb. Alright, it's time to push on, after stopping for a few minutes to catch our breath and rest our feet. Now we have reached the top terrace. And wow! Just wow! From up here, you can see the whole La Trinidad Valley stretching out in front of you. Rolling hills, clusters of colorful houses, the winding roads weaving through the mountains, and it looks like a painting. And just when you think it can't get any better, you see the pagoda. But the views, they are something else. On one side, you get Baguio's lush greenery and pine trees. On the other, the valley opens up to La Trinidad's farmlands and strawberry fields. And when the sun starts peeking through, then, the whole place just glows, and it's honestly one of the most peaceful views in Baguio. Okay, now here's where things get a little more magical. And after soaking in the views from the pagoda, we noticed a hidden path that leads to the other side of the temple ground. You're greeted by something you won't expect, and it's a giant, golden bell. From this spot, you get even more sweeping views of the hills and mountains surrounding Baguio and La Trinidad. It's like the valley just opens up in front of you, and you can see the layers of green rolling out for miles and miles. There's something about standing next to this bell and seeing the entire landscape spread out before you that makes you feel completely at peace. So, if you're visiting Bell Church, don't rush off after you see the pagoda, but do take that extra step. Walk to the giant bell, and trust me, you'll be rewarded with one of the best views in the whole area. So, is Bell Church a must-see in Baguio? Honestly, yes, if you love culture, history, or just really cool architecture. It's not your typical tourist stop, but that's what makes it special. The only thing to note is that it's still an active place of worship, so be respectful. No loud noises, no crazy photo shoots, and definitely no climbing on the dragon statues. The church offers parking spaces on spot, even though there is a parking fee, and there is also a small entrance fee. Now, on to our next stop, the most colorful neighborhood you've ever seen. For this stop, we decided to park further out because, well, no parking at the destination. We had to pass through the La Trinidad Arch, a welcoming landmark that marks the entrance to the town. And when I say welcoming, I mean it. And you can't miss it, it's a huge arch. While the colorful village might not be an official historical landmark with a specific date of creation, it has evolved into a symbol of the community's creativity and spirit. What makes this village stand out is the vibrant, eye-catching aesthetic of its homes, businesses, and public spaces. The colorful facades of the houses, painted in every shade imaginable, have become a tourist draw in recent years. This artistic explosion came about through the efforts of the community to showcase their creativity and make the town stand out. The walls are often adorned with murals, depicting local traditions, landscapes, and important cultural symbols. One of the most iconic spots in the village is the La Trinidad Bridge, which spans a river in the middle of the town. The bridge has become a symbol of transition, as it connects two sides of the village and has a striking view of the valley and the water flowing below. La Trinidad is a municipality located just outside Baguio, and you enter it by passing through the arch we walked through earlier. On one side of the arch is Baguio City and on the other side is La Trinidad. And of course, no visit to La Trinidad would be complete without a stop at the famous strawberry farm. You know how Baguio is known for strawberries, right? Well, La Trinidad is practically the heart of the strawberry industry in the Philippines. For a fee you can pick your own strawberries, right from the trees. And the farms stretch for acres, with rows and rows of strawberries neatly planted in the soil, surrounded by the backdrop of the misty mountains. As we stroll through the farm, let's take a moment to dive into the fascinating history of Baguio and La Trinidad, which have both played pivotal roles in the history of the Cordillera region. Baguio City, located just a short drive from La Trinidad, was established in the late 19th century by the American colonial government as a retreat for high-ranking officials and military officers, seeking relief from the intense heat of Manila. It quickly became a popular destination due to its cool, temperate climate, a rarity in tropical Southeast Asia. The city's modern urban development was built around the idea of keeping the natural environment intact, and the Spanish influence can still be felt in the design of key landmarks like Burnham Park. The area around La Trinidad was originally inhabited by the Igorot people, an indigenous group of the Cordillera Mountains, who have lived here for centuries. Baguio City covers about 58 square kilometers, making it relatively small in terms of land area, but it is densely packed with attractions, parks, and history. Its elevation of about 1,500 meters above sea level contributes to its cool climate. La Trinidad, on the other hand, is much larger, covering around 250 square kilometers. While it has a smaller population compared to Baguio, around 100,000 people, La Trinidad is largely agricultural, with its economy driven by farming and vegetable production. Both Baguio and La Trinidad enjoy cooler temperatures compared to most of the Philippines, so you'll want to bring a jacket or sweater in the evening, especially between October to February. After a nice stroll through the strawberry farm, we decided to head to our next stop, and it is the Presidential Mansion. Thankfully, there are several parking lots nearby for just a 50 pesos fee. The Presidential Mansion, nestled on a beautiful plot of land, is actually one of the official residences of the presidents of the Philippines when they visit Baguio. The Presidential Mansion was originally built as a rest house for American colonial officials in the 1920s, and it was later repurposed to serve as a summer residence for the Philippine presidents. It became a significant spot for political meetings and government retreats during the hotter months when Manila was just too hot to bear. It's not open to the public all the time, though, but visitors can usually take a peek outside and enjoy the surrounding grounds. Located just opposite the mansion main gate, Wright Park is a historical park, created back in the 1900s during the American colonial period. The park is known for its long pool, which used to be used for equestrian events and horse races, but now it's just a beautiful spot to enjoy the views and have a bit of a break. The greenery surrounding the area just makes you want to sit back and relax, and the cool mountain air doesn't hurt either. If you're visiting Baguio, you absolutely cannot skip Wright Park. And it's famous for its horseback riding stalls. When I say famous, I mean you'll find loads of horses lined up, ready to take you on a little adventure through the park. The stables are run by local guides, and you can take a quick ride around the park for just a small fee. It's not just about the ride though, and these local guides are passionate about the horses and will often share stories about the animals, the park's history, and the Filipino equestrian tradition. Plus, if you're into taking pictures, you're in luck because these horses look gorgeous in photos. And they're perfectly groomed and set against the backdrop of the park's beautiful scenery. We didn't do any horseback riding this time, but I definitely recommend it to anyone who's looking for a bit of an adrenaline rush or just wants to experience something a little out of the ordinary. So, after we left Wright Park, we figured we'd head over to Camp John Hay, one of Baguio's most famous attractions. This beautiful, sprawling area surrounded by nature, originally established as a rest and recreation area for American soldiers in the 1900s. Unfortunately, when we arrived, it was already past 5:30 p.m., and the place had already closed for the day. And I know, what a bummer. Alright, after the little disappointment at Camp John Hay yesterday, we were determined to make the most of our last day in Baguio, so we started bright and early the next morning. We hit the road, drove through the cool morning air, and made our way to Igorot Stone Kingdom. Now, if you're wondering, the Igorot Stone Kingdom is a cultural site that immerses you in the rich history and heritage of the Igorot people. It's a bit off the usual tourist path but worth every minute. The Igorot Stone Kingdom is a truly fascinating place. And as soon as we walked in, we were greeted by impressive stone sculptures and rock formations that are built in the style of the Igorot people's traditional stone structures. The centerpiece of the kingdom is a series of stone walls, terraces, and structures that are arranged in a pattern resembling an ancient stone village. This whole site was built by hand, with stones carefully arranged to represent the traditional stone culture of the Igorot tribes. The kingdom was actually constructed by a local named Mr. Benji Somoe, who was inspired by the idea of honoring the Igorot culture and preserving its traditions. He started building this kingdom several years ago, and it's now one of the most fascinating cultural attractions in the area. The Igorot Stone Kingdom isn't just a display of artistry, but it's a tribute to the Igorot people's way of life. The stones represent the Igorot's ancestral ties to the land, as well as their connection to nature. You'll see how the structures are designed to reflect the Igorot's communal living, as well as the importance of family and respect for elders. As we walked around, we also noticed carvings and figurines embedded in the stones, depicting different aspects of the Igorot people's history, like warriors, rituals, and festivals that are integral to their culture. It felt like we were walking through an outdoor museum of sorts, where the exhibits were woven directly into the landscape. One of the most striking features of the Igorot Stone Kingdom is the views. As you stroll through the kingdom, you'll be treated to sweeping vistas of the surrounding hills and mountains. Let's take a moment to dive into a bit of history and context about the Igorot people, and how you can get to Baguio if you ever plan to make the trip. The Igorot people are the indigenous group of the Cordillera Mountains in northern Luzon. They have a rich cultural heritage and are known for their agriculture, ancient practices, and wooden sculptures. The Igorot Stone Kingdom represents just a glimpse of their rich history, showcasing the connection between the people and the land through these magnificent stone structures. Historically, the Igorots are also known for their resistance to colonial rule, having successfully fought off Spanish, American, and Japanese forces throughout different periods in history. Now, if you're wondering how to get to Baguio, let me tell you that it's actually not too far from the bustling cities like Manila or Clark. But I think the best airport is Clark Airport, as it is smaller and less crowded than the one in Manila. From Clark, you'll take the NLEX heading toward Tarlac, then follow the same route through Tplex, and this should get you to Baguio in roughly 3 to 4 hours. And from Clark, expect similar toll fees to what you'd pay from Manila, about 300 to 400 pesos, depending on your entry point and the toll roads you take. When you finally arrive in Baguio, you'll immediately notice the cooler climate, the pine trees, and the mountain air that the city is famous for. It's a welcome change from the heat of the lowlands, making it a perfect summer getaway. If you want to avoid toll roads and take the scenic route, you can skip NLEX and Tplex and take the MacArthur Highway, also known as the National Highway. And this road was the original route to Baguio before expressways were built. But I must warn you that this route is longer and takes 6 to 8 hours, depending on traffic and road conditions. And since it passes through many towns and cities, expect stop-and-go traffic, especially in urban areas. Baguio is famous not just for its cool weather but also for its unique local flavors. Try strawberry tahoe, which is a warm, silken tofu dessert with syrup, but with a special Baguio twist and with fresh strawberries from La Trinidad. Pinik pican is a traditional Igorot chicken soup where the chicken is lightly beaten before cooking, giving it a distinct texture and taste. December to February is the peak season for visitors because it's the coldest time of the year, with temperatures dropping as low as 10 degrees Celsius. February is the best time to go if you love festivals, and this is Baguio's Flower Festival, with street parades, floats covered in flowers, and lively performances. But the city gets super crowded, and hotel rates skyrocket. I would avoid June to October as this is the rainy season and Baguio gets a lot of rain, so roads like Kennan Road may close due to landslides. Before our unforgettable adventure in Baguio comes to an end, let me summarize this video in a few lines. Baguio is best explored on foot. And parking is a challenge, especially during peak seasons, so be ready to walk or take taxis. Be patient with traffic, and whether it's getting a taxi at night or driving through busy streets, patience is key. And if possible, do visit during the cooler months. For us personally, we did not enjoy the city center of Baguio, because we felt that it was too crowded, too chaotic and overly complicated. But we like the outskirts, the places we showed you, like the Bell Church, the Presidential Mansion, the scenic Wright Park, and even our quick stop at Camp John Hay reminded us just how much Baguio blends nature, heritage, and modern charm. After we wrapped up our visit to the Igorot Stone Kingdom, we started our drive down the mountain. And the road down is a bit winding, but the views of the hills, the forests, and the clouds hanging low over the mountains were simply mesmerizing. This was a trip that reminded me just how much there is to see and learn in every corner of the Philippines, especially places like Baguio, where history and nature beautifully intertwine. But now, we want to hear from you. Have you been to Baguio? And what was your favorite part? Or, if you haven't been yet, what's the first thing you'd want to do when you visit? As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss next week's trip. And until then, happy travels!